Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm your GoLocal Live host, Rachel Nunes. Welcome to the show. We're really excited to kick off today with Rebecca Maxfield. She's the director of Much Ado About Nothing here in downtown Providence. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, it's good to be here. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So tell us a little bit about the show.
So this is our, I believe, fourth annual now summer outdoor production of Shakespeare or of a show by a playwright from the same period as Shakespeare. And actually, it's been kind of fun coming back to plays by Shakespeare. Over the past 2 years, we did more obscure plays from that period. So it's been fun to come back to something that really is a classic that everyone knows and loves. It's been a lot of fun. And we're also in a new location this year. We're at the Roger Williams National Memorial on North Main Street, which has been very cool and very accommodating.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the space. It seems like pretty much every city has its own Shakespeare in the Park type event. What's different about having it outdoors and more organic as opposed to in a traditional theater?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of fun that people can just wander by and see, oh, there's a play happening. I'd like to sit down and see what's happening. Why are these people yelling? But it's also a lot of fun for me to do. Well, I think this is true of the plays that we do inside at AS220 as well, but when Shakespeare's plays were originally being produced, they didn't have elaborate sets, they didn't have elaborate props. So it is kind of exciting to be, in a way, doing the shows the way they were meant to be done, where it's all very flexible, all very quick entrances and exits, establishing where we are through talking, and that's something that we get to do in the park. It's a lot of fun.
That's true. It's not something you really think about, but back in the Elizabethan era, there weren't all of the lights and high-tech equipment and all that. So it really is a nice way to kind of go back to the organic roots of Shakespeare. And so tell us a little bit about the production. It's Much Ado About Nothing. What's the main synopsis of the show?
All right.
For those of us who don't know.
So a regiment or a group of soldiers come back from the war. Claudio, who's one of the soldiers, just came out of the war highly decorated, very impressive, falls in love with Hero, one of the girls from back home. They'd met before and now they're falling in love. And in the week leading up to the wedding, they decide to set up their friends, Beatrice and Benedict, who are always sniping at each other, have some kind of conflict or some kind of failed relationship in their past. It's not super specified what it is, but they're always engaging in these battles of wit, and their friends decide it would be fun to set them up. Not necessarily that they would be good for each other, but it would be fun to set them up.
Sounds like a wild play.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in it.
And so are these all local actors taking part?
Yeah, most are from the area. The actress playing Benedict is someone who is based alternately in New York and New Hampshire, but we've worked together before, and I'm really happy to have her back. Yeah, it's a lot of great actors who. The way that Rhode Island theater tends to work is people rarely work exclusively with one company, so it's people who you may have seen in other things, even if you haven't seen one of Hedrick Theater's shows before.
And so how do we take Shakespeare plays, which, when you read them in school, there's all this flowery language, and I don't know what it means. Then you watch the movie, and you're like, okay, I sort of know what it means. How can we make Shakespeare relatable, and how can we get people excited about Shakespeare, like literally centuries later?
I mean, so I do think it is easier to watch than to read. My direction is always very much about making the text clear, both in terms of telling people how to say it and in terms of making sure that the way people move around the stage makes it clear what they're talking about. And I also think that it's about people, and people are going to be people even centuries later. We also have modernized this particular production in some ways. Lots of people do Shakespeare in a way that reflects on such and such a current situation. The way we decided to do this production, and this was always going to be the way we were going to do this. It didn't result from casting that just happened to occur. This was the plan going in. As part of our season of making a world, which is themed around escapism and fantasy, you'll see people do productions of this or of other Shakespeare comedies and say, oh, it's so escapist, it's a fun night out where you don't have to think about anything. But I go to a show like that and see, well, there's these two characters who repeatedly profess how uninterested they are in the opposite sex, and then they get paired up at the end. And as a gay person, that's not very escapist to me. Or there's a hero who, spoiler for the play, who is horribly humiliated and shamed and betrayed by Claudio, and she just takes him back at the end. And as a woman, this doesn't seem very escapist to me. So among the changes that we've made for the production, it's still a fairly traditional production in a lot of ways. But we did cast Benedict as a woman. So Beatrice's repeated statements that she's not interested in men are true, and Benedict's that he or that she in this production is not interested in women is just kind of oh Benedict, you're so in denial there. But also another change that we made, one of the other changes we made for our feminist agenda, is that Hero doesn't take Claudio back at the end. Again, spoiler for our production, but it's been interesting working on it also and seeing what requires work from the actors. So in this production, some of our actors were saying, oh, it's kind of weird that we have to get in with a general joy at the end, even though we've just personally suffered this kind of embarrassment of Hero rejecting Claudio in the end of this marriage that we tried to set up not working. And it's true, it is kind of a hurdle to get over for the actors, but on the other hand, normally in a normal production, the actress playing Hero has to reconcile to herself how is she going to get back with Claudio after all this. So it's been really interesting discovering that kind of thing as we've worked on the production, in addition to knowing the stuff that we already knew about how we were going to do it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
It can be very rambly.
That's a great approach, especially in past months with the Me Too movement.
Which was a big thing that we were thinking about in this production. Another change that we made, normally in a production of Much Ado, you'll see Don John, the guy who spurs on Claudio and his friend to slander Hero and who tricks them. You'll see him plotting, you'll see him and his henchmen plotting in scenes that are running concurrently with the scenes of all the merriment getting ready for the wedding. But in our production, we chose to put those scenes into a flashback after the wedding, so that at the time that Claudio at the wedding calls Hero out for supposedly being unfaithful, the audience is essentially in the same position as the characters are, where they have to decide who they're going to believe. Claudio, who says he totally saw her, or Hero says she totally didn't do it.
That's a really interesting way to kind of mirror society and to bring up those conversations of who do we believe in situations and who do we automatically lean towards of, oh, well, clearly he's right, clearly she's right. So that's...
Yeah, there's some great lines. Hero's father is saying to someone, because he initially believes them as well. He believes the other men. So he's saying, would the princes lie and Claudio lie? But he doesn't wonder, would my daughter lie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are really great themes, and I think there's such a great way to explore things like that in a way that's not preachy.
Yeah, and it's always new. The nature of a theater production is that it's always happening right in front of you. It's always current. It's always of the moment.
Absolutely, and it's really cool that we can take, like I was saying, like sometimes Shakespeare can feel very removed. It's good to be able to take themes like that and stories like that and be able to bring them into the modern time. So not only are you learning this classic Shakespeare story that pretty much everyone knows, but you also can relate to it more.
I certainly think so.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about the production. If we want to come by, you mentioned it's at the Roger Williams Memorial. Sure.
As of now, we have 5 performances left. It's at Roger Williams National Memorial, which from the studio I think is that way. It's at 282 North Main Street, just between downtown and the East Side. It's Friday, this Friday and this Sunday at 8 o'clock, and next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 8 o'clock, all evening performances. Our first year of summer shows, we did matinees, but it's too hot out there.
Absolutely, we would not want to be out today.
So the Saturdays and Sundays, it's all in the evening. Check our Facebook page, Head Trick Theater, for weather announcements. We've been lucky so far. Didn't get rained out at all the first weekend, and it's looking like the weather's going to clear up for tomorrow as well. So cross fingers. But if you want to see it, you have 5 more chances, and hope to see you there.
And
come join the giant dance party at the end of the show. I'm not even joking. There's a big dance party.
Who wouldn't want to join the giant dance party? And is it free to attend?
Well, you can donate to us online. We're not taking ticket fees in the park, but we do encourage you to donate to us online because it was not free to produce.
And so, Hedrick Theater, tell us a little bit more about the company. Do you do any other shows during the year?
Yeah, we're one of the resident companies of AS220 downtown, and our shtick, our thing, is we do classics, usually classics that we try to produce in an innovative way with reference to modern issues like you were talking about. And sometimes that involves some kind of contemporary spin on something, but very often it's just about teasing out the contemporary implications or contemporary relevance in things that are there already. So, for example, our previous season that we completed in March at AS220, we did God of Vengeance by Sholem Asch and Gabriel by George Sand, and we didn't attempt to set those in the modern day in a visual sense, but the issues that Gabriel raises of feminism and of trans issues, and of the limitations placed on women, and B, how to express an identity that's not the one you were assigned at birth, or not the one that or one that's neither male nor female. Those are issues that resonate today, even without setting it in the modern day. Or God of Vengeance raises a lot of issues of religious hypocrisy, of persecution of women. And it was very important to me in, given the current levels of anti-Semitism, to do a Jewish play as well. So it hasn't always, it's not an official part of our mission statement, but I am very interested in making sure that women and minorities are represented in the works we're doing, even though they're classic works. It's not, you know.
That's true.
People who weren't straight white men didn't pop into existence 50 years ago.
That's true. Just because we're doing these older plays doesn't mean that we can't talk about minorities and racial issues and things like that. I think of it all as the Hamilton phenomenon of all of the founding fathers weren't, of course, minorities, but that doesn't mean you can't stage it in a way that is.
Yeah, and we have always, we cast race blind, we cast gender blind, except in, for example, Much Ado, we specifically wanted to cast some of the male roles as women. But in almost every show besides this one, we've had women playing male characters as male, just expect the audience to accept it. You know, if we're going to have them accept that these things are really happening right in front of them with people they know. You know, a lot of people who come to the shows know the actors and they know they're not really such and such a character. So why not also ask them, why not also ask them to accept that this woman is a man in the story, or that this historical figure who in reality wouldn't have been a person of color is a person of color now.
Absolutely, that's such a great approach. Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating, and it's a great way to spend a night once the sun goes down, the city cools off a little bit. Come check them out. So tomorrow, Sunday, 8 o'clock, and then next weekend as well.
Yep, 3 shows next weekend.
Great. Well, be sure to check them out. Hedrick Theater, right down the street at the Roger Williams National Memorial. This is Rebecca Maxfield. She's the director of Much Ado About Nothing. She and the rest of the company have no doubt worked extremely hard, so go check them out. And we'll be right back with our next guest here on Go Local Live. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm here now with the chair of the URI Journalism Department and very good friend, John Pantalone. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Rachel, it's so nice to be with a former student. This is the first time I think I've done any radio or visual stuff with a former student.
We're here to rep the Harrington School.
Why not?
So tell us a little bit about journalism at URI. You've been a pillar of the program for so long now. Tell us a little bit about how the program has changed just in your time there.
Wow, it's changed a lot because the field of journalism has changed so much. We're doing things in multimedia fashion now because very few people are getting jobs in journalism where they can do just one kind of reporting. So all of our students are going through the program with multimedia instruction at a basic level, and then some of them are doing that in a more refined way in higher level classes. And we were just able to hire a new faculty member who is I would say an expert at this point in multimedia. He's a really gifted documentary filmmaker and is really up on all of the latest technology. So we're really hoping he can help us get more of that going on in some of the upper level classes because it'll be great for the students.
Is it hard as an educator to keep up? I mean, even as being in the field, sometimes it's hard to keep up with what are the latest trends and social media trends. You know, well, we're not using that anymore. Is it hard to stay abreast of that?
Yes, yes, especially for somebody my advanced age and background. I'm a newspaper guy. I've been in newspapers, since I was first out of school, and so all of the technological stuff that's happened has been difficult for me to keep up with. But some other younger faculty are the ones who are really on top of it, and I do the best I can. I'm usually 2 steps behind whatever the trend might be. So but the department itself, with the help of those younger faculty and some other folks in the Harrington School and other departments in the Harrington School, are really helping everybody move, sort of in time with the changes. Although it's really hard to keep up because things change really quickly.
That's true.
Made a reference to social media, and I'm beginning to get the feeling that people are Twittered out, and that might be in part because of things going on in Washington, but some of that has calmed down a lot, and my personal feeling about that is it's a good thing if it does. So we'll see what happens. I mean, every time I think I know what's going on, something else new comes along. So
it's the same for all of us. It's hard to keep up.
It is, yeah.
But in some ways, though, it's good to have those firm foundations that have really stayed the same, because one of the big debates I remember having in school was, well, isn't anyone with a camera and access to a WordPress account a journalist? And of course, those of us in the field always say no. Yeah. But it's important to learn those foundational tenets that everyone has to hold on to, and it's important to remember those as we use social media, and there's so much discussion of what's real news and what's fake news. So it's good to stay true to those.
Absolutely, and that's the emphasis in our program. We're incorporating a lot of the new technologies and the new formats, and the technology is actually giving reporters an opportunity to be more creative in different ways of getting their stories told. But the bedrock skills are still absolutely necessary, and so we emphasize those from when students first get to the university, and we continue to emphasize them as they go through the program, and those are real basic reporting skills, basic writing skills, and ethical basics as well. So when somebody goes through the program, we'd like them to be prepared for the multimedia world, rather, that they're in, multicultural world as well. But we're maybe even more concerned that they have really solid reporting and writing skills. And I think that's what sets trained professional journalists apart from, I don't want to call people hobbyists, but people who aren't trained in professional journalists. We got, enormous problems with, credibility and trust, especially now that the press have become kind of one of the president's favorite kicking objects. He really, is attacking the press regularly, and fortunately, I think though people have started fighting back, including the public. I mean, one of the encouraging things to me is that subscriptions to the New York Times have increased tremendously over the past year or so, and I think people are getting more of a sense of the importance of news media, in part because of some of the things that are happening in Washington.
So speaking to that a little bit, along with the importance of those ethical foundations that you mentioned, where do you think we are right now with the whole discussion of what's real and what's fake, and is the press the enemy of the people? That's kind of been the rhetoric lately, and Facebook has been talking a lot about cracking down on fake news sites and sites that advertise themselves as news. And where do you think we are?
Well, I think we're in a very confusing place. Just yesterday, the story emerged that Facebook had discovered a bunch of fraudulent accounts that were posting on Facebook and Instagram and buying ads designed to influence the 2018 election. So that kind of stuff is going on all the time. This is one of the problems, I think, with social media in general. It's just really difficult for people to know whether what they're seeing is real or not real, or true or not true.
That's true. It gives everyone an equal platform.
Yes, right. I mean, technically, I suppose you can put anything you want on social media. The problem, and it's so different from, pre-social media days, the pre-internet days, the problem now is once it starts getting in that mill, it just keeps expanding. And frequently people are operating and making decisions based on false information or flat out lies. So it's a problem, but what we try to emphasize in the program when we're teaching students and non-majors as well, is that it's best if you find a legitimate, tested news source that you feel you can trust and that you don't feel is really playing political games. It's difficult, but there are plenty of them out there, and I think people are moving more in that direction. I think they're tired of all of the bashing and the politicking around the news media. And
when you say building trust, what can journalists do? Going back to those ethics you mentioned back at the beginning, what can a journalist do?
Just do the job the right way. Do your research, collect your facts, double check them, make sure that what you're planning to tell people is true. Stand by what you're doing, and don't be swayed by different political winds that might come along. One of the things that I've found interesting in some of the reading that I've done over the summer so far is just reminding me of how often in the country's history the press and the president have been at odds. They're always adversaries to one degree or another. But you can look at the Vietnam era with Lyndon Johnson, the whole Nixon era, pre-Watergate and post-Watergate. In some cases, Nixon was actually even more extreme than Trump has been in attacks on the press. But when people are in situations like those particular presidents and this current one, they're often looking for somebody to blame for whatever problems they seem to be encountering, and the news media are easy targets. They always have been.
Of course, because in some ways you could argue that the press shouldn't be that aligned with government, because the whole point of press is to be a watchdog.
Yes, and everybody seems to get that, and some people don't like it, and obviously people who are in political power at any given time especially don't like it. and that's why they often go on the attack. And it's been interesting. I've read a couple of different books about what's going on currently in Washington, and a couple of others about history of news media. And so there's a great deal of information in that reading about this very subject, you know, that how frequently, going back to George Washington, how frequently presidents and the press have been at, not just at odds, but real out-and-out adversaries. And the press is always there, and the presidents come and go. So that might be something else for people to remember.
So what would you, in that vein, what would you say to a student who is considering becoming a journalist? What would you say to them to convince them of the importance?
Well, the primary message is that it is a proud profession. You know, we like to make sure that students are proud of what they're going into, and that it's critical to the best function of democracy. And it's absolutely necessary because the general public does not have the time or the wherewithal to do their own watchdogging, although some folks try to do that. And it's the responsibility of the press to keep an eye on government or any other aspect of society that has an effect on the public. This is, you know, it's easy for me to say, but it is a really important function in society. And that's why I think it's really dangerous for political figures of whatever party or whatever philosophy to be attacking the press as a way of distracting people, because it does diminish credibility and trust, and it also has an effect on democracy. The other interesting thing I read about this summer, you know, the historical point, is that during that period from post-Kennedy assassination right through Nixon and Watergate, and then actually into the 1980 election with Ronald Reagan, public apathy about government was like so high that presidents got elected by just over a quarter of the eligible voters. We should be trying to do a little better than that, and the press's job is to encourage people to participate by making sure that they're informed. So, yeah, we tell students that all the time, and I think people who are serious about the profession take it to heart and try to proceed according to that idea.
Great, very, very sage words of wisdom, and help
Sage
us
and
all
wisdom.
feel better.
These are references to my age, I'm sure.
Thank you so much for joining
welcome.
us
I'm
today.
glad to be
We
here
really
with you.
do appreciate it,
Okay.
and we're very interested to see what happens with the upcoming
it's fun.
election and what's next.
It's actually fun for, you know, for reporters to be in an atmosphere like that, and it's kind of fun for people who are teaching it to see what happens. And
See what's
going to
happening.
happen. Absolutely.
And I'm sure it will continue to unfold.
Absolutely. It's not static, that's a fact.
Well, thanks so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
John Pantalone, Chair of Journalism at URI. Thanks so much.
You're
We'll
welcome.
be right back with our next guest here on GoLocal Live. Welcome back to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. We're here now with our third guest of the day, Rosemary Martin. She's here. She's a researcher at Brown. She's here to tell us about a revolutionary program aimed at helping reduce overdoses in inmates. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
And thank you for taking the time to hear a little bit about what we're doing in Rhode Island.
So just give us an overview of the program.
Okay, so in 2015, the governor, Gina Raimondo, created a opioid intervention and prevention task force, and as part of that initiative, the Rhode Island Department of Corrections began a comprehensive medication-assisted treatment for all individuals coming into department who have an opioid use disorder. The leading cause of death among people leaving corrections is overdose. And in Rhode Island in 2015, 21% of our overdose deaths were people who had been involved in corrections. So within this program, we are instituting medication treatment. So all 3 FDA-approved medications for the treatment of opioid use disorder, methadone, buprenorphine, and naltrexone, for all individuals coming through the system.
And have there been results? Is the program working?
Yes, so to date we've treated approximately 3,200 individuals. Before the program was expanded to include all people with an opioid use disorder appropriate for medication, the standard of care was to withdraw individuals. So if they came in and they were on medication-assisted treatment, that would be withdrawn, slowly tapered. With this new program, we contract with a community provider, Kodak, who provides the wraparound care while they're in the Department of Corrections. And we provide continued medication-assisted treatment for people who are coming in on treatment. And for the individuals who are opioid dependent, who are in need of treatment, we will actually initiate treatment for them. And for folks who are sentenced and are part of our pre-release population, if they're appropriate for MAT and they came in with a history of an opioid use disorder, they will be screened and offered to start medication-assisted treatment before release. And what we have found overall is that we're now, for 55% of the individuals that are on treatment, those individuals are already coming in on treatment. So there's no interruption. They're basically, they can come into corrections, continue their treatment for opioid use disorder, and then get released and continue right back. What we have found is that we've had a significant decrease in the risk of overdose deaths. From 2016 to 2017, the overdose deaths among recently incarcerated individuals decreased by 65% in the state of Rhode Island. So there was an overall decrease of 12%, but 65% within the population with a recent incarceration history. So this treatment is it's saving lives.
Absolutely.
It's saving lives, and the individuals who are receiving the treatment are able to go about their life and continue in care as soon as they leave corrections. They're already admitted to a program. They know what they need to do to stay engaged in treatment and for their recovery.
So do you think this program also then helps prevent future incarcerations?
That is one of the things that we're going to look at. We're going to look at recidivism. We're going to look at some of the things that happen within the facility as well, because there were some concerns that there might be some diversion of the medication while they're incarcerated. That's actually been quite low, and anecdotally what we're hearing from several of the wardens is that because we're meeting the demand, there's less contraband coming into the facilities. So it's positive all the way around.
And is this a volunteer program? Does the inmate choose if they want to take part in it?
Yes, so they are screened upon commitment or pre-release, or they can self-refer if they feel that they need treatment. And they then would be screened and assessed, and if appropriate, they would meet with a prescriber. And along with that prescriber, they would make the decision as to what type of treatment would be appropriate for them. And it's not just the medication, it's a wraparound treatment. They get counseling and discharge planning services so that we're looking at the entire individual.
not just the addiction. It's
Yep.
helping the whole individual,
Yep.
which
Yep. Part of the puzzle.
can't
but-
be a negative thing. That too, I'm sure helps with the rehabilitation as well. Like I was saying before, with possibly preventing
Yep,
return
the
to prison
recidivism.
later. Yes.
Yeah. So we will be looking at that, among other things.
And so, are other states adopting programs like this, or are we kind of the model for the rest of the country?
Rhode Island is the first state to have a comprehensive program. So this is historic. And Rhode Island is fortunate in that we have a unified correctional system. So our jails and our prison are together. So it's a unified system. So that, and we're a small state and a small facility. But we are the first to roll this out. And the interest from other jurisdictions has really been phenomenal. Yesterday, we had conference calls with 3 different states. And there's probably been about a dozen or more that we've had either site visits with or conference calls, and they just keep coming in. So yeah, we're happy to share our protocols, our standing operating procedures, and spread the word that this is working and that we've been able to do it here in Rhode Island.
So Rhode Island really is paving the way, and the opioid crisis is nationwide. It's a problem, and President Trump a few months ago declared it a national emergency. So this is really a solid way of really making a difference to help save lives and to help stop the spread of the crisis.
Yes, especially among this very, very high-risk population that may not be entering treatment, may not have the opportunity to enter into treatment because they're just not touched by the system. And they're now, unfortunately, they come in contact with the criminal justice system, but that can be the right door for treatment. We can do some treatment and rescue and prevention with them so that we can stop the cycle of recidivism.
Absolutely. And so what are the next steps for the program?
So we are we're looking at changing some of the formulations of our medication so that when people are released from corrections, they have a bit more coverage because the medications are daily medications. And so in terms of compliance, we want to reduce the barriers. And so we're looking at a different formulation of buprenorphine that would be long-acting and would provide about a month of coverage. We're also looking to expand the amount of time that they're on treatment. Right now, if someone is in for a year or more, they're withdrawn from the very slowly tapered off of the medication-assisted treatment. And we're looking to extend that so that we don't have to ramp them back up on medication when they leave again, pre-release. And we're looking at rolling out and helping other states come up with their own protocols and keeping this so that our criminally justice involved individuals can be treated with the state-of-the-art treatment as you would for any other disease.
And does this treatment come at any cost to the patient?
No. While they are incarcerated at Department of Corrections, they are not, they don't have to pay for the treatment. It's part of services that they receive. And when they are, after they leave and go into the community, it would be covered under most commercial and public insurance.
And so do you think that this is a model that could be applied more generally to maybe people outside of the correctional institutions? Of course, it's a great place to start, but do you think this model could be used for anyone who wouldn't have had access before?
Actually, yes. So that's typically what has happened is that the criminal justice population have been the ones that have not had access. So they've had the restricted access, where the population at large does have access to the best of care and treatment available. And we are, within Rhode Island, looking at those rural areas, the areas where we don't have immediate access. And so this type of a rollout where we're actually looking for those people that we wouldn't otherwise have encountered to introduce them to treatment would be a next step.
Great. Well, it's absolutely fascinating work, and you're clearly saving so many lives and helping so many people. So congratulations to your team.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Rosemary Martin, she's here from Brown University talking about their fascinating research and efforts to help the incarcerated community in Rhode Island. So thank you so much. And
You're very welcome. Thank you.
We'll be right back in just a few minutes with our last guest of the day. Today, here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. Welcome back to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm here now with our last guest of the day, Richie Sylvia. He is here from Bishop Hendricken High School to talk about their newest production that it opens tomorrow or tonight?
Tonight, actually.
Tonight. And so we're very excited about that. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us. I'm sure it's a very busy day.
It is. We're glad to be here. Absolutely.
So you guys are putting on You're in Town, the musical.
Yes.
Interesting name.
Definitely is. It's one of those don't judge a book by its title kind of musicals.
So tell us a little bit about the play.
Yeah, absolutely. So the basic premise of the play is that there's this fictional location that exists, and there's been a major drought, water shortage that's taken place, and because of that, they've created this big corporation has created these public amenities where you have to pay to pee, and you know it's very funny that to start off that way, and what ends up happening is eventually this revolution kind of takes place where people are fighting the system because the corporation is taking over, bribing people, working with the politicians and all this, and Bobby Strong, who's our kind of a revolutionary man, takes over and tries to fix this entire problem. And there's a love story. There's big Broadway production numbers. It's one of those like everything but the kitchen sink kind of musicals, but at the same time, it's incredibly funny and incredibly smart. It has a heart to it too.
And the show was first released in 2001 was when it was first staged, and it's a political satire.
Yes. Yes, it most definitely is. It deals with a lot of very hot topic issues in terms of the political atmosphere and corporations and corruption and so forth. But it does it in the funniest and wittiest of ways, which is the most interesting part of it.
So what made you choose this now?
So usually, I mean, we do a couple musicals every year, and we try to change the tone of what we deal with. And Urinetown was something we did several years ago with our alumni, actually, and we really loved the piece when we did that. We've been doing a lot more things like Wizard of Oz and Godspell and classic pieces, a little more family oriented. We wanted to tackle something that had a little more of an edge, a little more of a challenge intellectually for the kids, and the comedic side was a little bit different than what we normally deal with. So we wanted to kind of throw that over their way and give them that challenge, and they've definitely done an incredible job putting it together. It's been great.
And so tell us a little bit about the theater program at Hendricken. It's a co-ed program, despite being in an all-male school.
Yes, we are. If you want to come to Hendricken and actually be around girls while you're there, you come over to theater. That's what we're known for. So this actually functions as our summer program, which we call Summer Stage at Hendricken. Our arts program during the year is a full-fledged program, involves drama, vocal and instrumental music, media arts, and visual arts. We have a full season that launches up there. But our Summer Stage program is its own entity. We're in our 19th season.
Wow, congratulations.
Operating this. Thank you very much. And it started with a main stage production, which is what Urinetown is for us this time. But we also have a big camp component piece. So we're running 5 different camps in the various arts fields for kids anywhere from incoming 3rd graders all the way through graduating high school seniors. So we have that educational component that comes in as well. And then one of the cool parts about it is most of our staff for Summer Stage are actually alumni of the school and of the program. So they give back to the program that gave to them, but they also bring so much from the different programs and experiences that they've had moving beyond high school. So it's a special program, and we really love it.
And so what's it like to stage these musicals with young people as opposed to with adult professional actors? What's it like to kind of to mold young actors?
I mean, it's such a rewarding experience, and the coolest thing is that as much as we try to teach them, they teach me every day as well. So they bring such a different perspective, being a new generation with all these different issues that are around them and ways that that they think and they deal with stuff. So what I really do as a director is try to make it as much of a collaborative process as possible. They have so much to bring to the table, and so we really want to make sure that we integrate how they think, how they work, help them to develop the skills that they can as young actors to really grow as well. But it's an incredible experience, and these kids that I get to work with every year are not only incredibly talented, but are just wonderful young men and women to be around. They're great people.
And what do you think theater and the arts do for young people? Because studies have shown over and over again just the benefits of band and music classes and choir and theater and all of the benefits they have for young people. What changes have you seen just in your program?
I mean, this is, what I find is that the kids that are here, this is their niche. This is their home and their community that they find. This is where we can teach them to have empathy and compassion, and to make it more than just about things that you would grow grow from through a textbook. While the academic piece is so vital and so important, developing the whole person, which is really our what we aim to do at Hendricken in general, is something that we really strive for in the way that we approach things. And what I really do see is that they come in kids and they leave young men and women who are sensitive and caring and giving and intelligent and free thinking, and it's so wonderful that they're able to showcase their personalities and everything that they are through their art.
And so can any student in the community get involved? We touched before on having girls in your productions, despite not having female students at Hendricken. Can anyone get involved?
Yeah, so for our ladies, year-round, we open that up to any high school lady around the state that's interested in being a part of our program. We have open auditions for each of our shows. During the school year, it is only open to our Hendricken boys, but actually for our Summer Stage program, we do open that up to young men from across the state as well. So we really try to make that a very inclusive, community-driven experience.
And so not too many spoilers, but what do you guys have coming up the pike for the fall?
So our next production that we have coming up, we're very excited about. We're doing The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is based off of the Disney movie, but has also been modified and adapted. It's a really exciting piece.
Beautiful soundtrack.
It's
beautiful.
A gorgeous score. It's probably one of the larger undertakings that we've gone through in the last several years, but we're really excited about taking on the piece.
That should be very exciting. We'll have to have you back and hear more about that in the fall.
We would love to.
And so if we want to go see You're in Town, the musical, opening tonight, when can we come see it?
So we have 4 performances happening this evening, Friday and Saturday. All 3 of them are at 7 p.m. Our Sunday show is at 2 p.m. We do have tickets available online if you go to www.hendricken.com/summer stage, and that's all together, no spaces. However, we'll also have tickets available at the door, so please feel free to come and purchase there. We accept cash, charge, and check. And we would love to have as many of you as you could come on out and see it. It's really a spectacular performance. The kids have been working so hard, and you will not be disappointed with it.
And how much are tickets?
Tickets are $15 for adults, $12 for students and seniors.
And would you say, being a poor politically charged show, is this not a family-friendly show? Should we leave the kids at home?
This is one of those shows that I would say the younger kids probably best to leave at home, maybe have a little bit of a date night. But anybody that's maybe age 10 or older, I think you would be okay to bring them along. You know, there's some potty humor clearly, but
which every kid loves.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, it's relatively friendly to that age group.
Great. Well, it sounds like an absolutely fantastic show and a fantastic program, and we can't wait to have you back in the fall and talk more about what's going on in Hendricken.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you have to get back to rehearsal and make sure everything's in place for this evening.
Absolutely.
So we won't keep you too long, but thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in. That's it for us today. You can keep up to date what's going on at GoLocalProv.com. And Kate will be back tomorrow for the noon kickoff to the weekend show. Don't want to miss that. Have a great night. I'm GoLocal host Rachel Nunes.